Hey everybody, this is Shani Clark and welcome to Wisdom Chats. I hope you have had a wonderful holiday season and Happy New Year to you. As we come into this new year, I'm excited because I know that God, as always, has great things in store. And if you have been listening to different speakers and people talk about this year, we know this year as the year of the open heavens. And so we want to just talk today about vision and what do you see coming in your future and how to be prepared for it. So if this is a year of the open heavens, and open heavens meaning His presence, His blessings, all that God has in store for you being available for you this year. Well, that sounds great, but how do you activate that in your life? How do you begin to walk in the things that God has for you? Well, one of the things that you can do is to develop your vision. Vision, I love how Miles Monroe put it. He said that vision is the pictures of your future, or your future in picture form that God lays out before you. He gives you a destiny, He gives you a purpose, and He lays it out in pictures that you can visualize and see and work towards. So my question for you, what are the things that you see in front of you? The dreams that you've had, the creative ideas that you've had, just flowing different thoughts in your mind. What have been those pictures, and how do you get from the point of just thinking about them to actually starting to fulfill them? Because for me, it's really important for me that I don't just have all these creative thoughts, but I begin to see them come to pass. I want them to be able to be tangible in my life. That this will not just be another year where you're going to say, you have all these ideas, you're going to think about it, you're going to ponder it in your mind, but then another year you don't do anything about it. You know, our goal is that not only do you step out and you start thinking about great things and knowing that you have a purpose, but to begin to step into the things that God has for you and see them come to pass in your life. Because it's important that if God has been speaking to you, He also wants you to develop them and to have them impact others. It's not just about you having all these creative ideas, but that the things that God places on the inside of you have the ability to impact others around you. And you never know how far the impact can go. So never just judge any thoughts, any vision that you have by saying, oh, it's simple or it's small or it's not important. Anything that God gives you, He knows exactly how He wants to use your life. And it's important that we begin to walk into the things that He has told us to do. So the first part is developing a very clear vision. You know, we can have these nudges that God can give us inspirations. We can kind of know what our purpose is. But how do we begin to link those things together to have a clear understanding of what we're supposed to do? So, for example, you may like speaking, you may like sewing, you may like art, you may like cooking. There's a lot of different things that you could like to do. But the idea of vision is beginning to see how they come together, to have a picture in your mind of what God is wanting to do in you and through you. So when it comes to vision, it's not just you having all these very overall destiny out there moments. You know, you have these big pictures of 20 years from now, this is what I want my life to be like. That is a part of vision. But vision is also seeing the things around you come together in a tangible way where they make sense and they have significance. That the talents that you have, the ideas that you have, the people that you have around you, the connections, the things that you're motivated by, the things that you care about, that they all come together in somewhat of a concise way so that it's not just you're scattered all over, but you have a clear understanding of how to use all these different skills, talents, thoughts, creative pictures in your head to make something that's tangible and has an impact on people. So, for example, I remember when I was younger, I was talking to one of my friends about how creative I was. I loved to draw when I was younger. And I would have pictures all over my wall of, I love faces and fashion, and I would have all these pictures, and it seemed like one thing that I liked. And then I loved to write, and that seemed like a separate thing. And then I loved interacting with people. Now, I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert, so I like spending a lot of time by myself. I love like reading books or just listening to other people speak. So I'm not someone who's always on the go and always out. But when it comes to people, I love learning about their lives and, what makes them tick, how they think, and how they behave. For a long time, I thought those things were separate. But now, even in my business, or even when I was going for my major, I saw how those things came together to actually help one another, that they fit, that they weren't separate creative thoughts, they weren't separate things that I liked, that all those different things actually worked to give me a very clear picture of what I was called to do. So part of what I'm called to do is to help people understand their purpose, walk in their confidence, and to be able to define their distinction. What makes them unique and separate from anyone else? What's that unique stamp on you? So I can look at those different things in my life, and I can see that, they're very different. Writing versus creating and drawing versus speaking versus psychology, they are very different. But as I started to pray about, God, what do you want me to do with all these different things? He helped me have a clear picture of how they can come together to actually have an impact together rather than just being separated and not having as much strength. Okay, so there's a lot of different creative ideas that you may have, but we want to start trying to put them together. How can you bring a lot of different ideas, creative thoughts, your different plans, the things that you're drawn to? How can they come together to give you a clear picture of what you can do to impact others' lives? Now, for many of you, you've probably felt like that at times. You felt like you have a lot of different things, and I've been talking to different people about this. You have a lot of different things you can do, but you don't necessarily have a very strong focus. So a vision helps you to focus. A vision helps you to see how all these things come together to make you stronger in your ability to affect other people's lives. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to sit down and to begin to make a list of the things that I'm good at. Then I make a list of the things that I'm great at. And then I make a list of the things that I'm passionate about, because they're not always the same thing. Okay, so how many of you have things that you're good at, but maybe you're not so passionate about? But there's certain things that you are just fantastic about, that you're passionate about, and maybe there's not as much interest with it. You still don't discard anything. All the different things that I have learned over the years, the skill sets that I have actually all come together in the things that I do now to have an impact, and now they make sense in my life. But when I was younger, they didn't for me. But as I began to study and I looked at, okay, how can I bring these things together? They gave me a picture of the many things that I could do and things I still could do. And so it helped me to focus and really be able to say, okay, this is how I'm going to bring my talents, bring my skills, bring all these things together to help me have a clear focus and be able to actually do something tangible and worthwhile with them. So for example, in my business, as I help people understand their purpose and begin to develop, whether it's a business idea that they have, or maybe it's a ministry that they want to start, or some type of creative idea that they want to develop, or just improve on their confidence. I can help them look at all these different talents, look at all these different skills, and we begin to pray about it and say, God, you gave them all these things. You put all these different abilities in them. How do you want to bring these things together so that they can have a stronger impact on people's lives? So the first thing you do is just make a list. And then I start asking other people. Ask people around you, what are some of your skills, your talents, the things that you're good at, the things that they know you for that stand out. You would be surprised at what you would learn. I say this because a lot of times you don't see yourself clearly. Sometimes we can see other people around us really clear. We have a very clear vision for others, but we don't always see it for ourselves. That's me included. There's times I feel like I can see everyone else clearly, and I know what their talents are. I can see how they can use their talents, and I have a vision for them. But many times it's difficult for myself. So getting other people involved that know you and can help to pull out those talents are really important. So I make a list of the things I'm good at. I make a list of the things I'm great at, and I make a list of the things that I'm passionate about. I don't discard any of them, but I do have them in order so I can see which ones are the most important at the time. Then I start talking to people that know me, and I start to ask them, what are some of the things that they see in me? And of course, you want to talk to people who do have a good idea of who you are and are supportive of you. Okay, you don't want to give people who don't really support you an opportunity to kind of tell you you're not great. Okay, and then I start to link them together. I start looking at what are the things I can do that would involve all of them. Now, sometimes you may individually not have a really strong picture of that. Sometimes you can look at your talents and you say, I have no idea how to bring them together. But as you start to talk to different people like me as a professional and personal development coach, you talk to friends, family members, your pastor, your mentors, they can start to see things coming together for you that maybe you don't always see for yourself. Okay, and as you begin to string them together and say, hey, I could see how I can use my drawing skills and my ability to write, my creative ideas, my understanding how people think, pull them together to create a coaching business that helps people start their new ministries and their businesses, and it helps them to create their logos and their websites and all the copy that they have to put on there. Now I can see how all of my talents and all of my skill sets come together to give me that ability to coach and consult as I do now. If I had been in the mode of seeing them separately, I would have never have been able to see myself as a coach and consultant, because there's major things that would have been missing from my ability to connect with people and what I do now. If I would have discarded my love for creativity and drawing as something as I did as a kid, but it doesn't matter now, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the creative things with websites and logos that I do now that are really important to what I do. Don't throw away the skills that you have because you think they're insignificant. Yes, you prioritize them as what's most important, but you don't throw them away. You create a list, you look at everything, because you never know what skill set will pop up that might be later on extremely important to you. You start to have a picture of all the different things you can do, and then starting to talk to people of knowledge who understand you as a person, then talk to people who have knowledge of different skills, things that you're interested in, and they can start to see how things can pull together. You start to clump them together and say, you know what, in this job, in this position, in this area, in this field, I could use all these different skill sets to make an impact. Now, there's a lot that goes into that and fleshing it out, so this is not something I can kind of sit down with you just in these few minutes, but I just want to start you out this year of not taking the things that you have in your life and kind of throwing them away. I want you to begin to look at yourself as a whole. What are all the things that you can do? What are all the skill sets that God has given you? We think that certain things in our life are unimportant, but I like to say if God has given me something, it's probably for a reason. And even though I may not be using it at this very moment, there may be a time that will come up that it will be significant at some point. Okay, so I want you to start imagining what you could do and how you can impact others. Don't discard your skills. Start to have a vision of what you can do. And so let's, over the next few weeks, begin to develop step by step. Now, we've talked about before stepping out as God gives you creative ideas. But now, as we start fresh in this new year, I really want to make sure that as you step out, that you have a clear vision. Because without a clear vision, you're not going to know how to, step by step, build towards the things that can be a great impact to others. You'll have all these different ideas. You'll step out and do different things, but you'll never bring them together into something that's more tangible and can have a greater impact if you know how to bring your skill sets, your talents together for a very strong and focused purpose. So, I just want to have you to start off this week. Start to examine who you are. Start to realize that God has given you a very specific purpose and that He will give you a vision, pictures of how to bring those different talents together to have a major impact so that you can fulfill everything that He has called you to do. Don't waste your time just going from one idea to another. Bring them together, have a clear and focused vision, and let's get more into it as we go. So, my last thing for you is if you are in a situation where you go, Shani, that's great, but I kind of need some one-on-one help, please feel free to inbox me. My website is shanitclark.com. I'm also on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. You can email me, however you want to get in contact with me, and I would be glad to help you get started creating a very clear vision for your life. I look forward to talking to you next Thursday at 8:30, and you have a wonderful, wonderful beginning of this year and a wonderful week. Bye-bye.